The sky of Virelia was a deep purple, glowing under twin suns. High towers made of glass and stone sparkled like crystals across the capital city. Virelians, tall, strong, proud, moved with power and elegance through the streets. Their culture respected only one thing: strength. Here, beauty was measured in muscle. Loud voices, heavy steps, and massive bodies ruled attention. And among them, Virelian males stood proudly, admired by the females who believed no other race could match their greatness. But that belief was about to change. A quiet hum broke through the sky as a small silver transport ship landed just outside the Hall of Records. No one paid attention. It was just another diplomatic group, unimportant and probably weak. The ship door opened with a soft hiss. A group of 5 humans stepped out. Shorter, thinner, and far less flashy than the local warriors. They wore simple suits. No weapons. No armor, just calm faces. Leading them was a human male named Eli Morgan. He didn't look impressive by Virelian standards. No glowing armor, no flexed muscles, just a calm, confident gaze and quiet strength in his walk. He carried a small case in one hand and a translator in the other. A few Virelian women glanced at the humans, curious, but quickly turned away. They laughed. They look soft, one said. Like children, another added. They won't last a day here. Hours later, the humans attended a diplomatic welcome at the Grand Square. Giant statues of Virelian heroes stood over the crowd. Loud music played. Virelian males competed in strength games, lifting stone blocks, breaking metal rods, and shouting their victories. No one noticed the humans standing silently near the side, until the ground shook. A loud crash echoed through the square. One of the stone platforms had cracked, and a tall pillar collapsed toward the crowd. Screams filled the air. People scattered, but a small child was frozen, standing under the falling debris. No one moved fast enough except Eli. He dropped his case and ran, fast, smooth, and precise. No panic, no shouting, just action. He reached the child and pushed her aside, rolling with her to the ground just as the stone crashed behind. Some dust flew everywhere. The square fell silent. When the air cleared, Eli stood up slowly, carrying the frightened child in his arms. She was crying, but unhurt. The Virelian guards rushed over. One took the child, another checked the fallen pillar. But the eyes of the crowd, they were all on Eli, especially the women. He didn't smile. He didn't boast. He just picked up his bag and nodded politely. "Is the child safe?" he asked. One female, taller than most, stepped forward. Her eyes were silver and sharp. "I am Jari," she said. "Highborn of the Eastern Range. That child is my niece. You saved her." Eli nodded once. "She was in danger. I did what anyone should." Jari frowned slightly. "No, you did what no male here did." Her voice was cold, but her eyes lingered on him longer than necessary. That night, in the moonlit garden of the Highborn Hall, the alien women gathered. Their talk had changed. "Did you see how he moved?" He didn't even hesitate. "He's not like our males. He didn't try to prove anything, but still proved everything." And far above, in her tower chamber, Jari stood by her window, thinking. She remembered how Eli had looked at the child, not with pride, but with care. She had seen many warriors, many strong males, but none of them had looked like that. She whispered to herself, "What are these humans? Really?" The next morning, the buzz had spread like wildfire through the shining halls of Virelia. At breakfast tables, in military camps, in training grounds, alien women whispered about the human named Eli. Some called it nonsense, others called it curiosity. But all of them remembered one thing: the way he moved, the way he didn't boast, the way he saved a child without asking anything in return. Jari, highborn of the Eastern Range, could not stop thinking about it either. Her niece was safe, thanks to him. But more than that, something deep in her instincts had shifted. She was taught that Virelian males were the standard, the strongest, the bravest, the only kind worth considering. But then, a human had shown her something different. That same day, a council gathering was called in the open arena. It was supposed to be for cultural exchange, a simple event. But tension filled the air. As the Varelian males lined up to display their strength through combat and trial, many noticed that the alien women weren't watching as closely as usual. Their attention kept drifting toward a quiet group of humans standing in the shade. Especially toward Eli, who stood silently observing everything. One of the warriors, broad and scarred, stepped forward and shouted, "Let the human male join the challenge. Let him prove himself." Laughter followed. It was supposed to humiliate. But Eli didn't flinch. He calmly stepped forward, placed his bag down, and said in a firm voice, "I'll participate, but I don't compete to win. I only show what I can do." A quiet hush fell. Jari watched closely from the upper platform. The first trial was raw strength, lifting stone boulders. The Varelian males did well, tossing blocks with roars and pride. When Eli's turn came, he tried but couldn't lift the largest one. Laughter returned, but then came trial 2, precision, a challenge where competitors had to hit small moving targets with a short spear. Varelians missed several. Eli, he hit every single target with calm focus. No yelling, no posing. The third test was obstacle rescue, a simulated mission where competitors had to navigate a broken terrain and rescue a dummy child trapped inside. The Varelians charged. Many crushed walls, tore down barriers, but damaged the dummy or failed the timing. Eli moved swiftly, using small tools, analyzing the maze. He didn't break anything. He adapted. He carried the dummy out unharmed, with time to spare. The scoreboard flashed Eli. First place in the final trial. The crowd went quiet. Then, the applause began, from the women. Later, in the private highborn garden, Jari found Eli sitting alone under a tree, sipping water. "You did not outmatch them in power," she said. "No," he replied calmly. "But power isn't everything." She sat across from him, studying his face. "My people believe strength is beauty." Eli looked up, straight into her eyes. "I believe kindness is strength." Jari blinked. No male had ever said that to her, not in all her years. "You're confusing," she whispered. Eli smiled. "So are you." For the first time, Jari felt her heart skip, not because he was stronger, but because he made her feel seen. From the shadows nearby, a Varelian male named Rothkar watched them silently, his jaw tight with jealousy. And in that quiet garden, something powerful and dangerous had just begun. By the third sunrise, the humans were no longer just quiet guests. They were a topic of fire-lit conversation, loud debate, and quiet wonder, especially Eli, the man who lost the first trial but somehow won the hearts of the alien women. To the Varelian males, it was unacceptable, and to Rothkar, it was a direct insult. That morning, the open arena was quiet. No crowds, no judges, just Eli, walking alone, inspecting the alien architecture with a curious gaze. Suddenly, a loud slam, a giant metal training blade dropped at his feet. Rothkar stood across from him, shirtless, sweat glistening over muscles built for battle. "I challenge you," Rothkar growled. "In combat, today, right now." Eli looked at the weapon, then up at the towering warrior. "Why?" "You made our females look away from us." Eli sighed. "I didn't come here to compete for anyone." "You already are," Rothkar snapped. "They talk of you. They whisper your name like it matters." He stepped closer, towering. "Prove it doesn't." Eli didn't pick up the sword. He simply stepped back and said, "No." Gasps echoed from the hidden onlookers. Jari was among them, watching silently behind the archway. Rothkar laughed coldly. "Coward?" Eli's voice remained calm. "No, I just don't fight unless I must. But if someone's in danger, then I don't hesitate." And fate gave him no time to prove it. At that exact moment, a shriek rang out, followed by a cracking sound. One of the side walkways above the arena had collapsed. A young servant girl had been standing on it, now hanging by a thin beam, screaming. People froze, even Rothkar. But Eli moved. He grabbed a nearby rope coil, ran up the slope of the arena wall, climbed a vertical column without thinking. His body wasn't the strongest, but it was precise, coordinated, and fearless. He reached the girl, tied the rope to a post, and lowered himself toward her. "Grab my hand," he called. I can't," she sobbed. "You don't have to be strong," he whispered. "Just trust." She reached. Their hands locked, and he pulled. When they both landed safely, the crowd erupted, unplanned, unscripted cheers from those watching. Eli didn't raise his hands. He didn't bow. He simply asked the girl, "Are you okay?" She nodded, tears in her eyes, and in that moment, Jari understood. Real strength wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was gentle, brave, quiet. Later that evening, Rothkar approached Jari, bitterness in his voice. "He refused to fight me. But now everyone praises him?" Jari replied without looking at him. "You wanted to show how powerful you are. He showed how valuable he is." Rothkar's hands clenched. "You may be the strongest male on this planet," she said softly. "But today, a human with no sword protected someone when no one else moved. What does that make you?" Rothkar had no answer. That night, beneath Virelia's twin moons, Jari walked to the guest quarters. She found Eli sitting quietly, looking at the stars. "You make many here uncomfortable," she said. He smiled. "That's not new for me." She sat beside him. "I watched you today. You didn't win any battle, but you won something harder." He looked at her. "What's that?" "My attention." For the first time, Eli was the one caught off guard. And in the silence between them, something unspoken bloomed, the beginning of a bond not built on strength, but on understanding. The garden was quiet under the light of Virelia's twin moons. Faint blue flowers bloomed in the corners, glowing like stardust, their petals releasing a soft perfume into the air. Jari walked slowly between the trees, her footsteps silent. She didn't wear her armor tonight, only a dark silk robe that shimmered like the night sky. Her mind was restless. Something inside her had shifted, and its name was Eli. She found him by the reflecting pool, alone again, sitting cross-legged on the edge, watching ripples in the water. He didn't turn when she approached. "You don't sleep much, do you?" she asked softly. Eli smiled without looking. "Not in places that aren't home." "Do you even know where home is?" He looked up at her, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of vulnerability in his calm eyes. "Not anymore," he replied. "Earth stopped feeling like home long before I left." Jari sat beside him, just close enough for their arms to nearly touch. "I used to think I knew what strength was," she said. "It was loud. It conquered. It demanded attention." "And now?" Eli asked. She hesitated. "Now I wonder if strength might also mean quiet, patience, willingness to be misunderstood." He chuckled. "That sounds like every day of my life." They sat in silence for a while. Then Jari spoke again. "Our males, they don't speak of pain. They don't cry, they don't talk of fear, it's seen as shameful." Eli's voice was gentle. "Then I guess they've never known freedom." She turned her head. "Why freedom?" "Because hiding who you are isn't strength, it's prison." Jari stared at him for a long time, not just his words, but the weight behind them. "You are not like them," she whispered. "Not like any male I've known." Eli smiled. "And you're not like anyone who's ever talked to me like I mattered." Her heart beat faster, not because of attraction as she knew it, but because something inside her was opening, a door that had been locked for generations. She stood, then extended her hand. "Do your people dance?" she asked. Eli raised an eyebrow. "Dance?" "It's not about music," she explained. In our culture, it's a meeting of minds, a way to share memory out and trust. He stood slowly and took her hand. Then show me. Jari guided him to the center of the garden where light and shadow met. No crowd, no music. Only their quiet breath and the sound of leaves brushing the wind. Their hands met, palm to palm, eyes locked. And then, the mind-sharing began. To Eli, it felt like drifting. He saw flashes, Jari as a child being told never to cry. Her first battle, her first scar, her loneliness behind all the power. To Jari, it was overwhelming. She saw Eli's exile, his earth memories, his moments of rejection, of being too soft, too quiet, not man enough. She felt the pain he never spoke of, and the strength he never needed to show. The bond didn't need words. Their minds moved like dancers, not touching, yet closer than any contact. When it ended, they stood quietly in the garden, still holding hands. Jari was the first to speak. My people will not understand this. Eli nodded. Then maybe they need to learn. She stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know what this is yet. Neither do I, Eli replied, but I don't want it to end. And in the stillness of the Varelian night, a silent promise was made, not of ownership, but of discovery. The next morning, the highborn courtyard buzzed, not with politics or training drills, but rumors. Did you hear? Jari danced with the human. Not just danced. She shared her mind with him. Impossible. She would never bond with an outsider. But the whispers grew louder, stronger like sparks feeding dry grass. Even the elder females began to notice. She smiled, one said, as if she had been seen. By midday, the entire city knew. Rothkar stood at the edge of the Colosseum training pit, arms folded, eyes dark. He had been watching Eli for days, waiting for him to slip, to fail. Instead, the human had grown in respect, in curiosity, and now in affection. From Jari of all people. He remembered her as a child, cold, proud, untouchable. But she had danced with him. A human. Enough, Rothkar growled. He stormed out of the arena, ignoring calls from his comrades. That evening, Eli walked the edge of the temple gardens, sketching the alien plant life in a small notebook. His body was calm, but his thoughts buzzed with uncertainty. Jari hadn't spoken to him since the mind dance. Was she ashamed? Conflicted? Suddenly, a sharp metal clang behind him. He turned. Rothkar stood in full armor, weapon in hand, eyes glowing with rage. You have taken what does not belong to you, Rothkar said. Eli didn't move. I took nothing. Jari is not property. She is Varelian, a warrior, a leader. She will never belong to someone like you. Eli stepped forward calmly. Then why are you so afraid of me? Rothkar snarled and lunged forward. But a flash of gold stopped him. Jari's voice thundered across the courtyard. Enough! She stepped between them, eyes burning with fury. You come to challenge a man who never challenged you? A man who shows more control than all our generals. Combined, Rothkar's hands shook. You defend him over your own? Jari's voice dropped, but her words struck like blades. I defend the one who earned my respect, the one who saved a child, the one who listened when you shouted. I defend the one who never needed to prove his strength. Rothkar looked into her eyes and saw it, the spark, the choice. He turned to Eli, eyes filled with hate. This isn't over, human. But Eli stayed silent, not afraid, just unshaken. Later that night, Jari found Eli in the quiet library of the archives. She sat beside him, saying nothing for a while. Then she spoke. You did not fight him. Why? Eli closed his book. Because he doesn't want justice, he wants an audience. Jari tilted her head. And if he challenges you again? Eli looked at her, calm but firm. Then I'll show him the real meaning of strength, the kind that protects, not destroys. Jari reached out, placing her hand over his. I don't want protection. I know. he replied. But maybe. You deserve it anyway. And in that moment, the spark of jealousy died, and the flame of something new began to rise. Every cycle beneath the triple eclipse, the ceremony of choice took place. It was ancient tradition. Varelian women, warriors, nobles, scholars, would step into the ceremonial ring and declare the male they found worthy to bond with. It was more than love. It was legacy, honor, and alliance. Once a name was spoken, it was recorded in the temple's crystal archives, forever. For centuries, Varelian males stood proudly in line, flexing their might, preparing for praise. But this time, things were different. Jari stood at the top of the marble stairs, her robe of black and gold catching the breeze. Her face was unreadable. The entire council watched from their golden thrones. Hundreds of citizens had gathered, murmuring, waiting to see whom the highborn of the Eastern range would choose. Hrothgar stood tall at the front, confident. He had already received 2 tokens from other females. He waited, smirking. And far in the back Eli stood, not dressed in armor, not standing tall, just present, calm, still unsure if he even belonged there. The first women made their choices, calling. Names placing glowing crystal bands on their chosen's wrist. Applause, tradition, celebration. Then it was Jari's turn. She descended the stairs, her steps slow, heavy. Every eye followed her. Hrothgar took a half-step forward, confident. Jari walked past him, the crowd murmured. She kept walking past the warriors, past the nobles, until she stopped, in front of Eli. Silence. You could hear wind blowing across the stones. Jari held up the crystal bond, a bright blue one reserved for only highborn level bonding. I choose, she said, her voice clear and strong. The one who does not shout to be seen. The one who does not raise his hand in anger. The one who stands firm in storms but never seeks a crown. She turned and locked eyes with Eli. I choose Eli of Earth, my bond, my equal. Gasps, cries, even some laughed, nervous, bitter, shocked. The council shifted in their seats. A highborn had never chosen a non-Varelian. Never. Hrothgar's face twisted in fury. This is madness. But Jari stepped closer to Eli and placed the crystal band gently around his wrist. It shimmered to life, glowing with warmth, a bond sealed, a law made, unbreakable. Eli looked into her eyes and whispered, "You know what this means?" "I do," she said. "I also know I don't care." In the council tower above, High Matron Vela stood. The council will speak on this breach of sacred custom. Jari turned calmly to face them. Then let them speak. But we've already chosen. That night the city was divided. Some called it betrayal. Some called it bravery. But many alien women, young and old, looked at the stars and asked themselves, what if strength was never about who could lift the heaviest stone, but who could carry a soul without crushing it? And in a quiet balcony garden, Jari and Eli stood hand in hand, no longer warrior and guest, but equals. The morning after the ceremony was unlike any before. No trumpets, no parades, only silence and tension. The High Council had locked themselves in debate chambers trying to undo what was already done. Jari had bonded herself to a human male, and act so unheard of it wasn't even forbidden, because no one had ever imagined it would happen. Across the city, strange things began to unfold. In market lanes, alien girls whispered to each other, glancing at human men with curiosity instead of scorn. In training grounds, Varelian males clenched fists, pretending not to feel the shift in the air, the invisible thread snapping between power and admiration. And at the center of it all stood Eli, now no longer a visitor, but the bonded of a highborn. He didn't wear new clothes. He didn't walk with pride. But still, people moved aside when he passed, not because he forced them to, because they saw something in him now. Quiet power, Inside the temple, Jari stood before the elders of the council. "You challenge sacred bonds," one elder said, voice cold. "You challenge the structure of our world." Jari looked each of them in the eye. "No, I challenge the lie that only size and noise are strength." Another counselor leaned forward. "And you would let human males spread among our kind as equals?" She nodded. "Not by force. But if our women choose them freely, then let them." Outside the chamber, alien women waited, some with hope, some with fire, and then a girl stepped forward, not a noble, not a soldier, just a vendor's daughter. She walked up to a human male translator and placed a single bloom flower in his hand. "I choose this one," she said aloud. More gasps. Then another woman stepped forward, and another. The council's authority crumbled, not by war but by choice. By sunset, change had begun, not with riots, but with curiosity. Eli watched it unfold from the tower window, arms crossed. Jari stood beside him, silent but smiling. "You realize," he said, "this might start something we can't control." Jari nodded. "Revolutions are never quiet forever, but you didn't come to conquer us, Eli. You came and showed us a different way." Eli looked at her. "Do you regret it?" She took his hand. "I regret only that it took this long to see clearly." Epilogue. Months later, across Varelia, mixed bonds slowly became accepted. Alien children learned about human philosophy in schools. Males were no longer judged by size but by heart. Even Rothkar, now silent and forgotten, faded into history like a broken statue. And in the center of this new world, a statue was built. Not of a warrior with a sword, but of a man holding a child, his hand held by a tall alien woman. At the base of the statue were carved words, "True strength is not loud, it listens, lifts, and loves."